The president's appropriation bill also seeks to restore investor confidence. It aims to translate recovery into jobs and better living standards. Tinubu called this a defining moment in Nigeria's reform journey. He acknowledged the hardship caused by the reforms over the past 2.5 years. He assured citizens of their sacrifice. He assured citizens that their sacrifices were not in vain. Let's listen to the president before we go on a break.
Presents a defining moment in our national journey of reform and transformation. Over the last 2.5 years, my government has methodically confronted long-standing structural weaknesses, rebuilt confidence, and lay a durable foundation for the construction of a more resilient, inclusive, and dynamic Nigeria. Though necessary, the reforms have not been painless. Families and businesses have faced pressure. Established systems have been disrupted and tested. The budget execution has been tested as well. I acknowledge these difficulties plainly, yet I'm here today to assure Nigerians that their sacrifices are not in vain. We are already out of that dark tunnel of uncertainty, economic volatility, and lack of inclusiveness. Economy, I'm proud, has turned the corner.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀?
Ó ga o, gbogbo ìgbà.
Let's talk about Kiriji War. A war fought in the 1870s to the 1880s. It was 15 years of traumatic battles among Yoruba city-states. It was a political, economic, and cultural warfare. Ibadan, led by Latusa, launches the war when it attacks fringe villages in Ijesha land, as Fabomi of Ekiti organizes battalions towards Ikirun to check the aggression. It was Western Yoruba Alliance against Eastern Yoruba Alliance. War. The Kiriji War on State Affairs. Dr. Yemi Farumbi, welcome again to State Affairs.
Thank you so much. Always very happy to be here. And let me say publicly again, I'm not tired of saying it, acknowledge the good work that you are doing, putting on record for future generations issues of importance, historical, political, military, so that our people can learn, particularly these days when people don't want to read, as if they like to view. Thank you for what you are doing.
Thank you. Kiriji, sound of cannon, sound of war. Kiriji. That name came from sounds of war.
Yes.
Tell me about the war.
Interesting. Because there are two perspectives to the war. Some people believe the war started 1870 and ended 1886. Some like to think it's 1877 and ended 1893. And the reason is that there were two treaties. But when you look at the content and the purposes of the two treaties, then you're likely to accept that the war was between 1870 and 1886. The treaty at 1886, signed at Mesile, which was the military headquarters of the Eastern Alliance, effectively ought to have ended the war, or did end the war. But you know what happened? The fighters didn't leave the place, because the Western Alliance didn't want to be the first one to pull out. The Eastern Alliance didn't want to be the first to pull out. So for years they were still there,
But they were
no longer fighting, until the governor came, Governor Carter,
Colonial governor,
visited the Mesile. Thereafter he visited Igbajo, which was the headquarters for the Western Alliance. It was only then, when they've now had a guarantee of British protection, which in fact led to the 1893 agreement, which was the agreement for the British to protect all of them. But that wasn't the end of the war. The war had ended, the people didn't go.
So the war had ended in 1890.
1886.
Okay.
But they didn't go until 1893. They stood there, no longer fighting. But nobody wanted to be said to be the first one to have withdrawn. Because they thought if we are the first one to withdraw, it would mean the other one can claim they won. But the war effectively was a stalemate.
So this was a war that started after the fall of the Oyo Empire. How did the fall of Oyo Empire lead to the Kiriji War?
Is a sequence of events. The Oyo Empire collapsed. That meant there was no central authority any longer. And when there was a collapse, everybody was trying to have his own beat. Every kingdom that used to exist was now trying to re-establish itself. Economically, politically, and in terms of trade then. So there was a succession of wars before, in fact, the Kiriji War came. I think the first war was between Oyo itself, the declining Oyo, and Owu. The declining Oyo, having the military camp in defeated the Owus. And that's why the Owus are scattered all about. There's Owu in Osun, all over. There's Owu in Ogun State. They used to be one kingdom of their own, but they were defeated.
So where was that original kingdom?
It was where they are now, near Egbala. But there is really Owu, in fact, very near Bankan. They got scattered. After that, there were other wars between Jaye and Ibadan. Because as soon as the empire collapsed, Ibadan, that was a military camp, now was asserting itself.
Ibadan had always been a military camp.
Yes, but it was getting bigger. And it was having, if you like, fighters or mercenaries from all over Yoruba land.
That's why it's a military camp. It was a military camp.
Military camp.
So fighters were coming from all over
Yoruba land
to encamp.
To encamp there. Sometimes to get training there. And like I said, so they were operating like mercenaries. They could be recruited to fight the battles of other kingdoms.
So warriors like Fabumi and
they were trained in Ibadan.
So when your empire collapsed, that military camp,
now you usurped political power, was now marrying what used to be military power with its political power.
So they are laughing controlled like the civilian power.
Yes, the arrangement before was that there be an Alafin, there be an Areona Kokanfo.
Under the Oyo Empire.
Under the Oyo Empire. Once the Alafin political control, political rule collapsed, but the military didn't collapse. So they started usurping the political powers of the Alafin and started exercising control, beyond military now, political control over some of those areas we call the Eastern Alliance, the Ekiti Kingdom, Akoko, Ijesha, Ibomina. So they started exercising whatever Alafi used to do, collecting taxes, tributes regularly from them, and imposing punishments, and sending to those areas agents that they call ajeles to come and represent the interests of the Are in all of those areas. So they were already becoming a military coup political. And these others were now resisting. We never knew you as a political warlord. You were military. So, since the political warlord had collapsed, everybody was trying to reassert its own independence, or even sometimes to want to expand the limits of his kingdom. And thirdly, to regulate trade, particularly since slavery had become a very viable option then. So that was what led to the Kiriji War. The fact that the Eastern Alliance Kingdom decided to reject the authority and control that Ibadan was exercising on them.
By this time, Ibadan forces had won the 1840 Osogbo War.
Exactly.
So Ibadan by this time has shown.
In fact, Ibadan had asserted military strength and superiority. They have defeated Ijaye in the Ijaye War with Kurumi, who was killed in the process. They only lost in the war against Abeokuta. But they have prevented the expansion or the incursion of the Fulani, what will I call it now, empire into the hinterland of Yoruba in 1840, led by Balogun Oderinlo. Now, the story of Balogun Oderinlo will tell you what Ibadan really is. Balogun Oderinlo was an Ife man.
Ife man?
Yes.
I thought he was born in Ilorin.
His parents were Ife. They carried his pregnancy from Ife to Ilorin. So he's an Ife man. He was born in Ilorin to these Ife parents. He joined the Alimi forces. It's not the Alimi forces. The Afaja forces. and was part of them. He left Ilorin. He came to very near Iwo, one of these towns very near Iwo, but they expelled him because it was too big for them. And then he came to Ibadan and became a Balogun. So Ibadan itself was, like you said earlier, was a camp of all fighters from all Yoruba land, who now, because of their own military powers, wanted to seize political control and perhaps would have created an Ibadan empire. Because I could see that was their intention. Because once you started taking tributes, taxes from the other kingdoms, then Ibadan will have become their overlord.
So where was the Alafin at this time?
He was there in his palace.
Powerless?
Powerless. Sometimes history calls that Alafin will come very early in the morning to come and pay tribute to Are Latusa. He had become that powerless.
Are Latusa was Are Onakakanfo.
Yes.
He was the warrior in Ibadan.
He was the warrior in Ibadan who seized the leadership, military and political.
And though necessary, painless, that faced pressure, established system have been disrupted and tested. The budget execution has been tested as well. I acknowledge these difficulties plainly. Yet I'm here today to assure Nigerians that their sacrifices are not in vain. We are already out of that dark tunnel of uncertainty, economic volatility, and lack of inclusiveness. Economy, I'm proud, has turned the corner.
State Affairs with Edmondo Below is live.
It wasn't as if I was told stories. I saw them happen.
And that was the man you confronted with your reports.
Yes, by the grace of God.
And he ran you out of town.
Yeah, he did. He did. He said that I should, apart from that story, he had issue with this same Ajia Kakina. They took her to the court. They took her to one obscure magistrate court. But somehow I got the information. And so I went to the court to report. And some of the things that came out from the cross-examination during, the proceeding were very, very unpalatable. I think I reported 2 of them, and the whole town, caught fire. And in fairness to him, he sent emissaries to me and pleaded with me in the name of God to stop reporting from the court. And I heeded the plea.
Why did you heed that plea?
You know, when somebody used the name of God to beg you, he has shown you that he's not using his own power, he's not using his own might, that the God you worship, and I left him.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
You are saying supported the military, a section of the military, because the military also rose to defend Patrice Talon.
Well, you will notice that in the article that you cited, I spoke of something like National Coalition of Compatible, what did I call them? Rogues. Benin Republic under Patrice Talon had become a rogue state. Why is it that all the major political opposition leaders are in jail? Why?
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Ladies and gentlemen, and fellow Nigerians, I am here today to fulfill an essential constitutional obligation by presenting the 2026 appropriation bill to this esteemed joint session of the National Assembly for your consideration. Before I go any further, let me be upfront with you. This is a reset, a very hard one. Avoiding abandoned projects, unpaid contractual obligations, and running a multiple budget, both inherited and unfulfilled mandates, is a problem staring the nation. So we are terminating the habit of running 3 budgets on one inflow. By March 31st, 2026, all capital liabilities from previous years will be fully funded and closed. From April, Nigeria operates on a single budget backed by a single revenue cycle. No overlaps, no excuses, no rollovers culture.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Yes, we are talking about the federal government budget of consolidation, renewed resilience, and shared prosperity presented by President Bola Tinubu to the National Assembly yesterday. He has assured Nigerians that their sacrifices will not be in vain. The president cited signs of economic stabilization. He talks about gross domestic product growing by 3.98% in the third quarter of 2025. Does this mean more money in your pocket? He says inflation has moderated for 8 consecutive months, that it stood at 14.5% in November 2025. According to the president, external reserves climbed to about $47 billion. He says this is a 7-year high, that it provides over 10 months of import cover. Is that not good news? Let's hear more from the president.
Though the path of reform is seldom smooth, but it is the surest route to lasting stability and shared prosperity. Today, I present a budget that consolidates our gains, strengthens our resilience, and takes this country from out of the dark tunnel of hopelessness, from the survivor to growth. The 2026 budget is themed budget of consolidation, renewed resilience, and shared prosperity. It reflects our determination to lock in macroeconomic stability, deepen competitiveness, and ensure that growth translates into decent jobs, rising incomes, and a better quality of life across every corner of Nigeria and for every Nigerian. Mr. Chairman, the leadership of the National Assembly, while the global outlook continues to improve, this budget aims to further strengthen our Nigerian economy to benefit all our citizens. I am encouraged that our reform efforts are already yielding measurable results. One, our economy grew by 3.98% in the third quarter of year 2025, up from 3.86% in the third quarter of year 2024, year in, year out. Inflation has moderated for 8 consecutive months, with headline inflation declining to 14.45% in March 2025, with stabilizing food and energy prices, tighter monetary conditions, improving supply responses. We expect the deflationary trend to persist over the year 2026 horizon, barring major supply shocks. Item 3. Oil production has improved, supported by enhanced security, technology development, and sector reforms. 4. Non-oil revenues have expanded significantly through better tax administration. Thank you for passing the tax bill. Investor confidence is returning, reflected in capital inflow, renewed project financing, and strong private sector participation. Our external reserve rose to a 7-year high of about $47 billion as of last month. That provides over 10 months of import cover and a more substantial buffer against shocks. These outcomes are not accidental or luck. They are the consequence of our difficult policy choices. Our next objective is to deepen our gains in the pursuit of enduring and inclusive prosperity.
That is President Bola Tinubu presenting the 2026 appropriation bill before the National Assembly. We are streaming on Edmondo Bilo's YouTube page. So you can join us because I can see questions here that we are not streaming. Yes, we are not streaming on Facebook, but you can watch us on Splash FM Facebook page. We are streaming on Splash FM Facebook page, not Edmondo Bilo's Facebook page. You can also watch on Edmondo Bilo's YouTube page. We are streaming on that page. Edmondo Bilo on YouTube. You can also listen through State Affairs app. Through State Affairs app. Just search for State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo on Google Play Store or iOS, and you download the app if you have not downloaded the app. So we are also streaming on that app. I'm on YouTube now. You can leave your messages on YouTube. You can begin to respond to what the president is saying. Do you agree with him? Has the economy turned a corner? Do you have more money in your pocket? Has inflation fallen? The prices of food, have they gone down? You can begin to respond. So I'm on YouTube waiting to read your message. You can also tweet at me. We are not streaming on Twitter. At the moment, we only stream on YouTube. So you can come on YouTube. I'll see you. I'm on YouTube now. So I'm waiting for you. Leave your comment. You can also leave your comment on Splash FM Facebook page. The outcome are not accidental, Tinubu stated. They reflect difficult but deliberate policy choices. Our task now is to ensure stability becomes prosperity, and prosperity becomes shared prosperity. I just quoted the president. They reflect difficult but deliberate policy choices. Our task now is to ensure stability becomes prosperity, and prosperity becomes shared prosperity. You can also call the radio station on 07069493000. That is 07069493000. You can also call 070-144-757-70. That is 070-144-757-70. The ball is in your court. If you look at the 2026 fiscal framework, the president talks about a projected revenue of 34 trillion naira. 34 trillion naira projected revenue.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, yeah, good morning, Radio Man. You see, man is a living magnet. You attract into your life people, events, and things that are in harmony with your dominant thought. Just like you have said, as a narcissist, so easy. And also talk about the economy. I believe the president is intentional about economic growth. But I also believe that some things just take time. You cannot produce a baby in a month by making 9 women pregnant. So it's just all about time. I believe everything will be good.
Thank you. Thank you for calling the radio station. Yes, the lines are open. The president talks about total expenditure of 58 trillion naira. Projected revenue is 34 trillion naira. But the president wants to spend 58 trillion. That means the revenue we earn cannot take care of the expected expenditure. So where would the president get the balance from? You know, he talked about multiple budgeting. That is sad. That the president has been operating multiple budgets in one fiscal year. That means in 2025, he was still operating the 2023 budget, the 2024 budget, and the 2025 budget. So what that simply means is that capital expenditure in 2025, there was no way it was going to meet up to 20%. But he has said no more. That will not happen again. But at some point, opposition parties raised that point, and some persons came out to say that's not true. How did that happen? It speaks about financial irresponsibility. How do you operate multiple budgets in one fiscal year? Anyway, perhaps the president has realized that that will not work. So, if he's talking about a projected revenue of 34 trillion naira, and he wants to spend 58 trillion naira, so this creates a budget deficit of 23 trillion naira. So where will he get the deficit from? He will borrow. He says the deficit represents 4.28% of GDP. That debt servicing is allocated 15.2 trillion. That means we are spending 15 trillion to service what we have already borrowed. Debt servicing is 15 trillion, bigger than any budget allocated to any sector. Recurrent non-debt spending is 15 trillion. Capital expenditure receives the largest share of 28 trillion. So let's assume he will not borrow. So where will he get the money for capital expenditure? Because he will focus more on recurrent expenditure that has to deal with salaries of workers. He must do that, or the workers will go on strike. So after taking care of recurrent, there will be little for capital expenditure. But soon the lines are buzzing. Good morning. Yeah, good morning. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Suleiman Matthew Babatunde. I'm calling from Ibadan here. Edmond, the statement of all the budget presentation and the statement of the president, to me, is just a mere rhetorics. A mere rhetorics of telling us what they've not done. And also, it's a budget that is telling us, oh, we should prepare for more borrowing. Because to me, that is a deficit budget that the president has planned. People are saying, yes, we should wait, give him time for his plans to materialize. I think he has gotten time for about 2 years now. And all we can see is that they brought tears, sorrow and pains, even to especially the masses of this country. Thank God the president also acknowledged that there are a lot of loss of jobs, a lot of loss of businesses, a lot of beggars in the street birthed by this administration. So anybody that is asking me personally, to appreciate the president or wait for the president because he's going to something good is coming out. Me, I have not seen anything good, rather than all efforts towards shutting down the opposition and bringing up his own agenda for his own selfish interest. Because most of the things I have seen is about me, I, and myself that the president is pursuing. Now, he talked about the hello.
I'm with you.
Yes, he talked about the foreign reserve that has risen to 47. If you remember, Obilo, under Obasanjo, our foreign reserve once rose to $80 billion, even without us, stinking our neck in debt, that the APC government has stopped the net of Nigeria in debt. So $47 billion to me in foreign reserve is not something I personally will appreciate, because Obasanjo without debt actually grew that foreign reserve to about $80 billion in this country. So to me, I think Nigerians should be really, in 2027, we should come together and say no to these people. If we own this country together, and if just an individual or group of political parties or a political party will hold us to ransom, I think it's not something that is better. And most of our people are just following what Fela has counseled us in the past, suffering and smiling. And they are doing that oh, it's from my religion, and not because of what's the effect in the lives of Nigerians. I want to tell you, Nigerians have not experienced this terrible situation, as it were, in this administration. And God will deliver us, but we have to come together as well. God has done his part. We also have to do our part to ensure that we have a responsible government in place. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. I can see Adiremi Abdul Warid here. Good morning to you. You are on YouTube. Remember, we are streaming on Edmondo Bilo's YouTube channel. So you can come on. Bombay Legacy says the positive impact of these economic and political grammars are yet to be felt by average Nigerians. Hamzat Bolomokwe says, I am highly impressed with your wise saying this morning. Keep doing what you know how to do best, the radio man. Thank you. Ganiyu Hakim is on YouTube. He says what Mr. President said is not reflected on what really happens to Nigerians as it is now. I am afraid of tax reform if it won't be a gag to small-scale businesses in the long run. Good morning, he says. I can see at Dollar Feromi, he says good morning, that he's watching from Lagos. Good morning to you. For nations to rise, the human spirit must rise. Good morning. Hello. Can you hear me? All right. So let's listen to the president talk about the budget.
We expect improved revenue performance through the new year, the new National Tax Act, and the ongoing reform in the oil and gas sector. Reform designed not merely to raise revenue, but to drive transparency, efficiency, fairness, and long-term value in our physical architecture. I've also provided clear and direct guidance regarding government-owned enterprises. Heads of all agencies have been directed to meet their assigned revenue targets. To support this, we will deploy end-to-end digitization of revenue mobilization, standardized e-collections, interoperable payment rails, automated reconciliation, data-driven risk profiling, and real-time performance dashboard. So leakages are sealed, compliance is verifiable, and remittances are prompt. These targets will form core components of performance, evaluation, and institutional scorecards. Nigeria can no longer afford leakages, inefficiencies, or underperformance in strategic agencies. Every institution must play its part and play it effectively.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
The 2026 budget is guided by 4 clear objectives. 1. Consolidate macroeconomic stability, improve the businesses and business environment, investment environment, and all of that together. Promote job-rich growth and reduce poverty, and strengthen human capital development while protecting the vulnerable. In short, we will spend with purpose. Manage debt with discipline. And pursue broad-based, sustainable growth. The 2026 federal budget is anchored on realism, prudence, and growth. The key aggregates are as follows. Expected total revenue is 34.33 trillion naira. Projected total expenditure is 58.18 trillion naira, including 15.52 trillion naira for debt servicing. Recurrent non-debt expenditure is 15.2 trillion naira. Capital expenditure will be 26.08 trillion. The budget deficit is expected to be 23.85 trillion naira, representing just 4.28% of our GDP. These numbers are not mere accounting lines. They are a statement of national priorities. We will remain firmly committed to fiscal sustainability, debt transparency, and value for money spending. The year 2026 to 2088 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper set the parameters for this budget. Our projections are based on 1. A conservative crude oil benchmark of US $64.85 per barrel. 2. Crude oil production of 1.8 million barrels per day. And 3. An average exchange rate of 1.4 naira to the US dollar for the 2026 fiscal year. We will continue to reduce waste, strengthen controls, and ensure that every Nigerian borrowed or spent delivers measurable public value.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
That's the president there. Key assumptions underpin the budget. The crude oil benchmark is $64 per barrel. Daily oil production is projected at 1.84 million barrels per day. The exchange rate is set at 1,400 naira to $1. These numbers are not just accounting lines, the president said. They are a statement of national priorities. He stressed commitment to fiscal sustainability and transparency. $1,400 to $1. 1,400 naira to $1. But the black market is saying 1,480, 1,490. I mean, there's still gap. That means I would rather go to black market and make more money. Okay, they sold 1.5 yesterday. But I thought dollars should be coming in now. Diaspora dollars should be flowing in. Dirty December. Why can't we call it clean December? Why dirty? You know, it's very heavy in my mouth. You know, why dirty? Or they do dirty things. Yes, they do dirty things. That's what happens. Everywhere is dirty. They are drunk everywhere. Everybody's shouting. You know. Should be clean December. Clean December. Current dollar to naira exchange rate. Black market 1.5. Okay. So, Mr. President, there's still that gap. There's still that gap. Anyway, we'll get there. I'm interested in security. The security sector receives the largest single allocation of 5.41 trillion naira. These funds are major reset of Nigeria's security architecture. You know, we have titled this class Tinubu's National Security Strategy. So let's look at that strategy, what the president said. The president delivered his budget, but there's this focus on national security, and I'm interested in that.
National security remains the foundation of development. The 2026 budget strengthens support for modernization of armed forces, intelligence-driven pricing and joint operations, border security, and technology-enabled surveillance and community-based peace building and conflict prevention. We will invest in security with clear accountability for outcomes, because security spending must deliver results to secure our country. Our priority will remain on increasing the fighting capability of our armed forces and other security agents, boosting the effectiveness of our fighting forces with cutting-edge equipment and other hardware. We will show no mercy. We will usher in a new era of criminal justice. We will show no mercy, I repeat, to those who commit or support acts of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping for ransom, and other violent crimes. Our administration is resetting the national security architecture and establishing a new national counter-terrorism doctrine, a holistic redesign anchored on unified command, intelligence gathering, community stability, and counter-insurgency. This doctrine will fundamentally change how we confront terrorism and other violent crimes. Under this new architecture, any armed group or gun-wielding non-state actors operating outside the state authority will be regarded as terrorists. Bandits, militia, armed gangs, armed robbers, violent cults, forest-based armed groups, and foreign-linked mercenaries will all be targeted. We will go after all those who perpetrated violence for political or sectarian ends, along with those who finance and facilitate their evil schemes.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Okay, you know, at some point the president lost his voice, but he regained it. The 5.41 trillion naira for security is meant to modernize the military, improve intelligence, tighten borders, and fund joint operations across agencies. Tinubu stressed that this spending must deliver security results. He also announced a major shift in policy. All armed groups outside state control, bandits, kidnappers, militias, will now be classified as terrorists, along with their supporters. This legal change is intended to close loopholes that have been allowed to persist. By prioritizing security, the government believes it is laying the groundwork, however painfully, for future growth in all sectors. Whether this logic holds will depend not just on the money spent, but on whether safety truly improves for ordinary Nigerians. Look, the persistent rise in insecurity, despite escalating security budget, can be understood as a crisis of being and meaning in the modern state, a reflection of deeper ruptures that cannot be healed by money or force alone. At the core of insecurity in Nigeria is the character of leadership. But I want us to look at what I call the fallacy of reducing security to a material problem. Because that's what I see. I saw it in Buhari's 8 years, and Tinubu has continued in that line. The Nigerian state often operates under a materialist and mechanistic worldview. Insecurity is seen as a problem of insufficient tools. You hear more soldiers, more weapons, better technology. Good. This assumes that human conflict stems primarily from a lack of resources on the side of the protector. But when the protector also becomes a terrorist, what happens? Can the president classify a policeman who uses his gun to extort people at checkpoint as a terrorist? We should get to that point. Because the only reason you would give a policeman money on the road is because of the gun he wields. In that case, he uses the gun to extort. Let me remind the president, because we need to get to that point in this country. He says, all armed groups outside state control. So what about the terrorism perpetrated by armed groups within state control? What do we do to them? The reason a soldier will slap and beat you and kick you is because he wears a uniform and he holds a gun. I just need to raise that point. At some point, perhaps we need to categorize them too. You see, if security is rooted in social fragmentation, loss of shared values, injustice, or collective despair, then pouring resources into the apparatus of control is like trying to heal a diseased tree by painting its leaves. The sickness lies in the roots. That means the social contract, the economic alienation, the political disillusionment, which budget alone cannot reach. There's also what I call the law of diminishing moral returns. There is a point at which increased spending on coercion yields not more security, but more distrust and resistance. When people experience the state mainly through its security apparatus, checkpoints, raids, surveillance, the state begins to resemble an occupying force rather than a protector. You see the way EFCC breaks into people's houses at night. They break in with so much hatred and pain. Even some policemen, you see the way they dress. They look dirty and tattered. And they are special forces. When you have that kind of system, that policeman does not become a protector anymore. So that is why sometimes when a policeman flags you down, you get angry. Immediately you get angry. Because you don't see the policeman as a protector anymore. You just feel he has stopped me now to extort me. That the police does that confidently also tells you that the leadership at the top is the biggest extortionist. That is why the police can do it confidently. That is why the civil servants can also do it confidently. Because the commissioners, the ministers are also extorting from the budget. If you extort, I extort. You have no right to deal with me. Once in a while, we have scapegoats that they deal with. Because by the time they go back to the police station, the DPO expects returns. The DPO will ask, where are the returns? Commissioner will ask, where are the returns? You return to me, I return to him. And we are all returning. That is why when contracts are given, there must be return. Nzogu and Co. were angry that politicians were collecting 10%. I learned by now it has risen to 40-50%. There's always return. So it will trickle down. That is why the character of leadership at any time is the dominant character of the state. So if you even speak to Nigerians now, they tell you, if na you unko, it has been accepted. The last point I make is that when people experience the state mainly through its security apparatus, like checkpoints, raids, surveillance, the state begins to resemble an occupying force rather than a protector. This creates what philosophers like Frantz Fanon might call a circle of reciprocal dehumanization. The state views citizens as potential threats. Citizens view the state as a source of oppression, and violence becomes a language of communication. Are you there? I just want you to internalize this. The state views citizens as potential threat. That is why the police, if you look at policemen at checkpoint, if you look at most of the cars they stop, they are mostly young boys. The police has a perception that any young boy perhaps is a Yahoo boy. So you see, they are out to chase young boys on the street. So the young boys also view them as oppressors. So it will get to a point, some of the young boys will pick up arms to defend themselves against the police. They become bandits because they are now so angry. The police profiles young men. Even when they see them on the road with their laptop, they feel you are a Yahoo boy. That is what is in the head of the police. And they don't want to arrest you as a Yahoo boy. They want to collect their cut. You have made the money. They will even ask you, do you do Bitcoin? That is why they are searching your phones. They want to collect their cut. And when I talk about this, I'm not talking about every policeman. I've also seen good policemen, handsome policemen, well-dressed and well-behaved policemen. The state views citizens as potential threats. Citizens view the state as a source of oppression, and violence becomes a language of communication. I'll be back after this break. Stay tuned.
Daganan kilo kilo.
Any longer.
Was Ààrẹ Latosa from Oyo?
I'm not too sure. It could have been. Otherwise, it would not have been the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. It's the Aláàfin that appointed Ààrẹ. But by tradition, the Ààrẹ doesn't live in the same city of Oyo or town of Oyo with the Aláàfin. That was why Ààrẹ Àfọ̀njá was able to do what he did in Ilorin. He was not living in Oyo. It is quite possible that he could have been an Oyo man.
Why all this happened? Where was the Oni?
The Oni was there. And significant, you see, in the Yoruba history, forget about origin. There was a time there was an Ife empire. But like empire, they grew and they die. But it was significant enough that you see that in the 86 treaty, the Oni and his chiefs were signatory to it. The grandfather of the present Oni, Olonwela, was the Oni in waiting when they were signing the treaty. But they considered that his interest was significant and important, that he had to be part of it. But he could not exert any political or military, because Ife itself was protected, not by his own troops, but by troops of Ijebuland and the other kingdoms.
Ààrẹ Latosa led the Western Alliance. At the beginning, Fabumi led the Eastern Alliance. Let's look at Fabumi. He's from Ekiti.
Yes, okay, Messi. And the mother is from Mogotu.
And Ekiti had warriors that could stand it by the warriors.
At that time?
Yes.
They couldn't.
They couldn't.
On their own. And the reason is, you see, Ekiti consisted of kingdoms. And that's why it eventually got called Ekiti Parapo. Became an alliance. The most senior of them was Uri. Otun. There's Olojido. There's Owa from Messi. There was Ajero. There was Elekole. Those are the primary ones likely involved. But they had about 16 kingdoms of their own. And they realized they could not face the professionalism of the Ibadans. Yes, they had warriors who were trained in Ibadan. But this Ibadan congregation of military people were doing nothing besides war. So it occurred to them. So as soon as the event that triggered the Kiriji started, and Fabumi, a young man who had beheaded an Adele, who had thought that what's wrong with these battles? We don't disturb them when they do their things. Why should they come and impose on us and things like that? And like every young man, he got his people together. But the Yorubas realized that it was not possible enough for their own forces to meet and defeat the Ibadan. So they invited Ogedengbe,
Balogun of Ijeshaland,
who also was trained in Ibadan, to come and lead. And Balogun Ogedengbe didn't exactly agree. He came back to Ibadan. Because if you were trained in Ibadan, part of the agreement is that you not fight against Ibadan. Unless you come back to Ibadan and you are unable to reach an agreement. So he came back to Ibadan and said he thought that the Ibadan Ajeles were becoming terrorists, intimidating people, oppressing people, seizing people's wives, seizing their farms, harvesting products that they didn't produce on their own, and inflicting taxes beyond the capacity of the people. Unfortunately, between him and the Ibadans, they couldn't reach an agreement. So he now told them, I am going to lead the alliance against you, so that whatever was the covenant could be broken. So the day he accepted and came back, it was the first day of victory for the Ikites, because they now realized that the Jeshas, the Bominans, the Akokos were there on the periphery, they could withstand the Ibadans. But there was something else which is metaphysical. They have consulted the oracles, and the oracle told them, if I allow the Ibadans to get wicked, they will defeat you. So make sure they never enter your land. And that was why the headquarters was in Messi. Ibadan eventually chose Ibadan as the headquarters. Ibadan has a tinge of Ijesha in speech and so on. So, at least people who are believed to have originated from the same source, who were believed to share the same culture and language, broke into two just for political control. One wanted to assert control, the other wanted independence. One wanted to control the trade and the business. The other wanted to have his own domestic control.
And they fought for 15 years.
And they fought for 15 years for it.
Was the Ilorin part of the Eastern Alliance?
Not exactly, but at the time, you know, when you are desperate for victory, sometimes you ally with enemies. You recall earlier that in 1840, the Ibadans had stopped the invasion of Fulani into the Yoruba land. The Eastern Alliance sought the support of the Fulanis, the Ilorins. In a segment of the Kiriji War that is called the Jalubi War, again, they were defeated in that instance. Why is it called Jalubi? There's a big river there. And there was a narrow bridge across it. So, and that was the bridge that the Fulanis supporting the Eastern Alliance would have taken to come to full operation against the Ibadans. Overnight, the Ibadan destroyed the bridge. So by the time the Fulanis came with their horses and all of that, they were just Jalumi. They were just into water. They were falling into water. That's why it's called the Jalumi War.
Interesting.
So that's the second instance. The Yorubas can always say they defeated the Fulani. But the Fulani was supporting the Eastern Alliance then. But that was the extent of their participation.
If you look at that war, there you find sketches of modern warfare. Cannons were used, trenches were dug. Let's look at the weapons of war.
Even walls, defensive walls were built. And that was what made the Eastern Alliance to begin the upper hand in the earlier part of the war. You see, DJs were part of the war. DJs were very prominent in Lagos. They were in business, they were dealing with the white people. It was through their interaction that they were able to get the cannons, the house robs, the great fathers of the present Oba, but the ones helping the Ijisha to get access to these, as at that time, the modern weapons. And the modern weapons made the traditional defenses irrelevant. They destroyed the defense wall. Since they were not moving in any way, they were not crawling, the trenches were irrelevant to them. The cannons were Kiriji and going long distances with devastating effects.
Modern warfare.
Yeah. Destroying settlements, destroying houses, destroying farms, breaching trade routes, separating families, and so on. It was modern warfare. And it took time for the battles to be able to have access to cannon.
Why did it take them that long?
But, they had to go through Egba or Ijebu to get to the sea, get to Lagos to have access. They were not exactly in good terms with the Ijebus, who were not actively in the war, but they prevented the Ibadan to have access to Lagos, so as to have access to this weapon.
They wanted the defeat of Ibadan.
Because at various times too, they are the victims of aggression, what they call the excesses of Ibadan. I had an interesting instance about 10 years ago or so. I had a later life. I was
obscure magistrate court, but somehow I got the information. And so I went to the court to report. And some of the things that came out from the cross-examination during, the proceeding were very, very unpalatable. And pleaded with me in the name of God to stop reporting from the court. And I heeded the plea.
Why did you heed that plea?
When somebody used the name of God to beg you, that is not using his own power, is not using his own might, that the God you worship, and I left him.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
We have to understand. And the idea of the advent of sovereign national conferences in Africa, Benin Republic emerged as a poster child of democracy, post-Cold War, post-apartheid era democracy, authentic democracy in Africa. And it had done so very well. Even Matthew Kereku, who was the former one-man leader of the country, came back as a Democrat. The country had consolidated its democracy well better than many other countries in West Africa. But Patrice Talon came and decided he was going to regress the country back to the old traumatic days of one-party state, one-man state. And therefore, the progressive forces in Benin Republic, not just the military, let me highlight, not just the military, even those who call themselves, those who can legitimately claim to represent the Pan-African constituency, the democratic constituency in Benin Republic, supported the military to decide to remove Talon from power.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
So the point is that you can link political activities at the time to the emergence of Boko Haram.
Of course.
You must have created the atmosphere.
Yeah, it created the atmosphere. Because the way he ran the government with iron fists, and the idea of I am all in all, there's nothing anybody can do. As governor, if Sheriff is sitting down, you dare not sit as a commissioner. You sit on the floor.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
You can be very, very legal. Going by the constitutional definition, you are this. But if what you do with your legality is to subvert the sovereign will of the people, then you become illegitimate.
When you say sovereign will of the people,
yes,
you mean a government the people elected. Is that not so?
Not a government a people elected. A government a people elected veers on the side of legality. The legitimacy is this is the sovereign will of the people. Let me give you an example with Benin. The sovereign will of Francophone West Africa is to get France off their backs. That is a legitimizing principle. From Laurent Gbagbo to Thomas Sankara to Goita to this Burkina Faso Traore, all they are talking about is getting France on our back, and they have the sympathy of progressive elements in Africa.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
National security remains the foundation of development. The 2026 budget strengthens support for modernization of armed forces, intelligence-driven pricing and joint operations, border security, and technology-enabled surveillance and community-based peace building and conflict prevention. We will invest in security with clear accountability for outcomes. because security spending must deliver results to secure our country. Our priority will remain on increasing the fighting capability of our armed forces and other security agents, boosting the effectiveness of our fighting forces with cutting-edge equipment and other hardware. We will show no mercy. We will usher in a new era of criminal justice. We will show no mercy, I repeat, to those who commit or support acts of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping for ransom, and other violent crimes. Our administration is resetting the national security architecture and establishing a new national counterterrorism doctrine, a holistic redesign anchored on unified command, intelligence gathering, community stability, and counter-insurgency. This doctrine will fundamentally change how we confront terrorism and other violent crimes. Under this new architecture, any armed group or gun-wielding non-state actors operating outside the state authority will be regarded as terrorists. Bandits, militia, armed gangs, armed robbers, violent cults, forest-based armed groups, and foreign-linked mercenaries will all be targeted. We will go after all those who perpetrated violence for political or sectarian ends, along with those who finance and facilitate their evil schemes.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
You know, one important point about the budget presentation yesterday was the call by the Senate President on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to reconsider his order withdrawing policemen from members of the National Assembly. The Senate President made the point that the lawmakers are scared of going home. They are scared of going home without their police orderlies. I feel for them. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Senator. Don't worry, come home. You are coming to your people. Why are you scared? Come and live among your people. Why do you need police escorts? Please come home. We will protect you. Okay? Don't be afraid of coming home. Don't be afraid of coming home. Okay? You should love your people. And when you love your people will love you and they will protect you. So, Mr. President, for now, let's experiment. Do not restore the security of members of the National Assembly. Let's experiment with members of the National Assembly living like every Nigerian. And then, Mr. President, Professor Wole Soyinka raised a subject about the security around your son. Your son goes about with soldiers protecting him. Why? The soldiers that move with Tinubu, I don't know if those soldiers move with the Senate President. I'm asking why. And that was a fundamental point that was raised by Wole Soyinka. So, Mr. President, I hope you have withdrawn the security around Tinubu. So, senators, members of House of Rep, come home. We are waiting to receive you. Please don't come with police. Come home. We will give you food. Don't give us food this time. Nigerians, your senators are angry. They are scared of coming home. So please, when the senators come home this time, give them gift. Don't be collecting from them. You can give a senator a cup of rice. Let's donate to them. Let's reverse the trend and see. You know, when you see a local government chairman, don't ask for money. Give him money. You can say, Mr. Chairman, local government chairman, I have 1,000. Please use this to support the work you do. You know, don't collect from politicians. Give them. You can give them. Let's see that we also change the way things are done. So any senator I see, I think I will give the senator money. Yes, I've kept some envelope for senators and House of Rep members. Hello, Mr. Senator, when you see me, ask me where is my envelope. I will give you your envelope. Let's be nice to our leaders, okay? We'll give them money. Let them be happy so that they will feel safe among us, okay? Now, there's also the shadow of unaddressed past when it comes to security. Unaddressed past. If you have read some theories, you must have stumbled on George Hegel. He spoke of history as a slaughter bench where unresolved tensions re-emerge in new forms. Are you in this class? History as a slaughter bench where unresolved tensions re-emerge in new forms. In many nations, today's insecurity is the ghost of yesterday's unhealed wounds. Historical injustices, ethnic marginalization, economic abandonment, and political betrayal. They curse insecurity. Like what is going on in the PDP now seems like a drama. But it's causing some level of insecurity. And as SPC broadens its umbrella, because PDP has no umbrella anymore, APC has collected the umbrella, and the handle of the umbrella is now the broom. APC should change its logo. Change your logo, APC. Put umbrella at the top. You have collected that from the PDP. Then use the broom as the handle of the umbrella. Okay? You have collected everything. Well done. Anyway, the PDP is reaping what it sowed. You reap what you sow. The PDP has that character of always fighting itself. So the APC should change that logo. But what has happened? For now, the APC is happy. They are celebrating. We are controlling 30 states. Soon we will control 36. It will have security repercussions. Mr. President, as you talk about your security strategy, you are provoking certain persons that will fight back in their own way. I hope you understand. Yes. I was talking about injustices of the past, political betrayal. Money allocated to security that does not address these historical grievances is, in a sense, a form of denial. It tries to suppress the symptom while ignoring the disease, and so the disease returns, often more violently. There's also security as a state of being, not a budget line. True security is not just about the absence of violence. It is the presence of well-being, trust, and hope. You can see senators don't trust their people, so they can't come home because the police has withdrawn security from them. So there's a question of trust. Why are they scared? Why are they scared? They don't want to be kidnapped? They don't want to fall into the hands of bandits? No, bandits cannot kidnap a senator. But bandits can kill a general, is it not? Okay. Bandits cannot kidnap a senator, but bandits can kill a general. If you have studied ancient Greek concept known as eudaimonia, it talks about human flourishing. And that concept reminds us that the people who have meaningful livelihoods, education, dignity, and a stake in society are far less likely to turn against that society. Are you with me? The people who have meaningful livelihoods, education, dignity, and a stake in a society are far less likely to turn against that society. When a politician steals billions meant for education, he has denied citizens the opportunity to have stake in that society. Those citizens will rise and fight that society in their own way. Go and buy 1 million guns. You are wasting your time. Those guns will also get to them. The policemen and the army will also find a way of getting it to them. Because within the army, you also have boys who are angry. You have policemen who are angry with the Inspector General of Police, who are angry with Tinubu. They will sabotage the system. And if you read news reports, you find that soldier sells arms to terrorists. Have you not seen those reports? Have you not heard from soldiers who are fighting? One soldier was saying, I was attacking Boko Haram, and another soldier shot me. Because the soldier is angry, why are you killing them? Those conflicts will arise. You've heard of governors who bought cars for bandits. There's a recent trend now. Some members of Miyetti Allah were handed weapons. Perhaps weapons for good, for security purposes. But what have they done? They have converted it to criminal purposes. That is their way of reacting against the state. The way policemen will also convert weapons to criminal purposes. You know, when the road safety was created, when you see a road safety officer on the road, you see integrity. You know, at some point, I so love the road safety man. But these days, road safety are still collecting money on the highway. They've started collecting money. And that's a road safety. They are not collecting their share. Because at some point, you sit down and say, I know be fool now. This one they collect, and nothing happened. You collect. Customs are on the road. Customs are on the highway collecting money. You see, if you are traveling on the highway, you see customs checkpoint, police checkpoint. They are all collecting money. That is their own way of reacting. Remember, they are all citizens of the state. Forget the uniform. They are also angry. They are underpaid. You know, I was listening to Dangote accusing the regulator man that his salary is not up to 600,000, yet he pays 5 million naira school fees. Yes, the first reaction is that, where did he get the money from? Corruption. But why will a man occupying that office be receiving 500,000 naira as salary per month? Have you asked that question? Because we underpay workers, they will cheat on the system because that money cannot take care of them. Why will a man occupying that high position be receiving less than 600,000 naira per month in this Nigeria of today? Okay, it's only Tinubu that has the right to send his own children to Harvard. Or only Sheyi that can send his own children to Ivy League, Abi? We don't want to go to Ivy League. So everybody will put hand into that pot and collect. You have destroyed UI. You are destroying all the federal universities. And you are sending your children to some of the best schools in the world. And you think we don't want our children to go to best schools. So what is going on? Let's destroy it together. Let's kill it. That's what is going on. So Dangote is feeling that, I have dealt with this man. Even the Dangote is also a problem. It's also a problem. Fine. I like the refinery. But we need to have a holistic look. You know, how do you pay a professor? How do you pay a professor? Less than 700,000 in a month. And a Yahoo boy will sit down and make more than 10 million naira in a month through fraud. And you will not tell the Yahoo boy that education pays. What are you talking about? How do you explain that? You sound like a fool now. Because the professors will always announce it every day that they don't receive up to 700,000. So you have created an imbalance in that society. You are complaining that our teachers are poor. They don't teach well. I heard the parents complaining, I'm going to withdraw my child from that school. I asked the parents, go and ask how much that teacher is being paid in that school. You pay a teacher 60,000 naira per month and you expect your child to be taught well. You are joking. 60,000 naira per month. That means as the teacher is teaching, she's thinking of what to eat. And you want your child to be taught well. We need to wake up. So I've decided to highlight this part of security for Mr. President to see. Mr. President, I hope you understand. Another aspect of insecurity is the kind of politics our politicians play. Ismail Mikbidon is the author of the book Persona Non Grata. Now, we'll go to Borno State and see how the political class also instigates insecurity. One, it is clear we have a deceptive and violent political class. I know the president understands this. I'm talking about a class that has impregnated the land, and the children are corruption, armed robbery, kidnapping, and terror. The political class spreads darkness over the land, and the people are falling into their early graves. It has become the biggest threat to national security. The political class has become the biggest threat to national security. The president did not mention that in his security strategy. That the political class has become the biggest threat to national security. You see, Nigeria in the recent past witnessed skirmishes that blossomed into insurgencies. The Niger Delta insurgency easily comes to mind in the analysis of rebellions against the Nigerian state. The arrowheads of the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta men were known political agents who worked for politicians in the region to attain power. I hope you have not forgotten. You remember Ateke Tom? Ateke Tom is now a king in Rivers State. Yes, I know you won't forget Asari Dokubo. You know, these guys were instruments in this enraging situation in the Niger Delta at the time. Matters came to a head when the boys moved beyond control and they pursued their own ambitions, leading to renewed militancy in the Niger Delta. Arms are deployed for election purposes. Afterward, they are left in the hands of rampaging youths who put them to other uses to ensure their survival and economic sustenance. The trend is that after elections are won, promises made to the young men are not kept, sometimes resulting in clashes between them and their former principals. In Rivers State, Asari Dokubo's group and Ateke's camp fought for supremacy resulting in an armed struggle on the streets of Port Harcourt. As Rotimi Amechi, as Peter Odili, they were all involved. To this day, Nyesom Wike was deep in it. But they've emerged as governors and they will say they are fighting crime. It won't work. To this day, democracy in Rivers State is validated by the use of extreme force, both legitimate and illegitimate. By the time the government was ready to cut their wings, the boys had moved into the creeks with arms. They've bought boats and could confront the state confidently. And it resulted in what later became a struggle for resource control. The Tompolo is one of the richest guys in Nigeria today. Tompolo. Even Buhari signed security deal with Tompolo. I think Tinubu has signed one with him too, secretly. So the Tompolos arose. They emerged as kingpins. Today they decide who will become governor. The consequences remain with our body polity. To keep their finances running, the boys started oil bunkering and kidnapping for ransom. The kidnapping we are crying today, the Niger Delta solidified kidnapping. They made it a profession. So the bandits in the north learned from the Niger Delta. I hope we have not forgotten. The bandits in the north learned from the south. In the south, these militants were kidnapping oil workers, collecting ransom. Have we forgotten? Let's not forget. So after causing enough harm to the country's oil infrastructure, the federal government under Yar'Adua brought the militants to the negotiation table through the amnesty program. Yes, many of us said no. The government must negotiate with the militant. But today we say no, government should not negotiate with bandits. But they are committing the same crime. But in the case of the Niger Delta, you say they were fighting for resource control. Okay, bandits have not told us what they are fighting for. Perhaps they need to let us know what they are fighting for. You see, Boko Haram's story also follows this pattern. It is suspected that Ali Modu Sherif, a former governor of Borno State, was behind the group called Ekomog in Borno. This gang of political thugs harassed and intimidated Sherif's opponents. Ekomog was prominent in the battle to ensure that the then governor of Borno State, Mala Kashala, did not get a second term. The group used arms and ammunition freely, while the police stood by watching. You would recall that Mala Kachala's 1999 election campaign was bankrolled by Sherif on the platform of the All Nigeria People's Party, then All People's Party, which later became, okay, I've made that point. Kachala was forced out of the ANPP. He moved to the Alliance for Democracy, on which platform he contested the 2003 election, but was defeated by Ali Modu Sherif of ANPP. Sherif enjoyed the backing of President Obasanjo. Sherif enjoyed the backing of Obasanjo. Hey, Bosun, let's play Ismail Omikpido, a journalist, the author of the book Persona Non Grata. Yes.
I don't believe in anybody who thinks his money can buy anybody and anything.
Was that Sherif?
That was his posture.
And he had the money.
He had the money.
Money is power.
This was somebody who told us that he had 76 jeeps before he became governor.
What was he doing before he became governor?
He was a businessman.
And he used that money to win the 2003 election.
Yeah, he did. He won that election. I think in our recent history, I think he probably was the first who dislodged an incumbent.
Obasanjo was against Mala Kashala.
I wouldn't say Obasanjo was against Mala Kashala.
Did Obasanjo back Modu Sherif?
Yes, he did. Because one of his aides, in person of Andy Uba, was very close to Ali Modu Sheriff. Now, if the 2003 election was not too clear, that of 2007 was clearer. In 2007, that was when I was involved in the build-up to the 2007 election. In 2007, votes were still being counted in Maiduguri when Ali Modu Sheriff was declared winner from Abuja under Professor Maurice Iwu, and we all knew who Professor Maurice Iwu worked for.
Obasanjo was PDP.
Yes.
Ali Modu Sheriff was AMPP.
APP, then later AMPP.
So what was it that Obasanjo wanted?
No, usually if you follow Obasanjo's style very well, he made deliberate incursion into the opposition's camp. And that was why somebody like Prince Abubakar Audu, even though he was of the ANPP in Kogi, he refused to allow the late General Buhari access to campaign in Kogi. And that was why most people didn't know when Prince Abubakar was to contest again after Buhari had become president, Buhari didn't hide the fact that he didn't like his candidature.
But he got the ticket.
He got the ticket through the support of the current president. He got the ticket. You know, so in Sokoto, Bafawa was in touch with Obasanjo. Most of the NPP states, Alero, they were working in alliance with Obasanjo. And so they even contributed in nominating the ministerial nominees from their states. Dagash was dropped as a minister because of Ali Modu Sheriff.
He fell out with Modu Sheriff.
Under Yaradua and even Jonathan. You know, so they have a way. If they know how to play their politics very well, they have a way of partnering with the opposition. It's a kind of rub my back and I rub yours, kind of relationship. That was what Obasanjo operated.
How this happened behind the scenes.
Of course, they will happen behind the scene.
But we will now see it in the reflection of their actions.
Actions. In appointments, in some of the decisions. Otherwise, the man who contested against Ali Modu Sheriff in 2007 under the PDP's platform was Obasanjo's presidential liaison officer, Kashim Imam. He was very close to Obasanjo. Before the election, everything he asked for, Obasanjo granted, including changing the police commissioner. But at the end of the day, the government apparatus, the way they behaved, showed very clearly where the president's interest lies. Otherwise, how will a state being run by AMPP, PDP wants to take over the state, yet announcement that the man who ran on the platform of the AMPP was done from Abuja? Who was in control of the central government? PDP. How else do you explain that?
This is how power works.
Yeah, this is how they work.
And that's the dynamics of power in Nigeria.
It is. Even under Jonathan, it happened in Anambra with Obiano. They will not tell you in the open. But you see their body language, you see their actions. That, as we speak now, APC in Anambra appears to be suspecting that they may have been traded off.
Have they not been traded off?
For now, I do not have any concrete evidence. But if historical antecedents is anything to go by, from the way Soludo has been praising the government at the center, from the way he's been mounting his relationship with the president, it is not unlikely that something would have happened behind.
What is this thing that happened behind?
You know, if, for instance, if majority of the government in power is not favorably disposed to the candidate the party is presenting, and if they feel very strongly that the incumbent has something to contribute more meaningfully than the candidate they are promoting, they will just enter into a kind of a deal. Okay, we'll support you, you win your governorship. When it is time for presidential election, you also support us.
And you saw naked politics play out in Borno State.
Very well.
And this was like you studying politics.
Yeah.
You then moved from a reporter to being a political strategist.
Yeah.
You know, meeting different politicians. So you had 2 jobs, right?
Yes.
How were you able to manage that?
Well, I was able to manage that because what I do as a political strategist has nothing to do with my line of reporting.
But it's the same you.
Yeah, it's the same me, but I play them differently.
Reporting on political gladiators.
I will report factually the way things happen.
But the bent,
I will advise, okay, you do this. For instance, I give you an instance. Dagash introduced me to Honorable Umara Kumalia. Honorable Umara Kumalia was a former minority leader in the House of Reps. He was the one who moved the popular resign or be impeached motion against President Obasanjo. Now, Kumalia wanted to run for the governorship. He had fallen out with Ali Modu Sharif. He wanted to run for the governorship in 2007. And he defected to PDP. Once he defected to PDP, they were dilly-dallying over whether to give him waiver. You know, if you defect, if you are not giving waiver, you can't contest for any position. So he defected. Now, he was the first person to defect. It was after he defected that Senator Mohamed Abahaji, also from Borno, defected. Now, all those who defected after Kumalia were giving waiver, but Kumalia was not giving waiver. But before then, I told him, I said, look, I understand that you have some level of relationship with Kashim Imam. Let us call a meeting between the two of you. Agree on power sharing model so that Kashim Imam can leave this thing for you. I said, because if the two of you go into the contest for the primaries, one of you will eventually win. But whoever wins, there will be crisis within the PDP. And the man you want to dislodge will eventually triumph over the two of you. They dilly-dallied over it. When eventually he now got in touch with me to say that a meeting has been called between him and Kashim Imam and other stakeholders of the party by Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, I told him clearly that from what I know, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe is supporting Kashim Imam. So certainly the outcome of that meeting cannot be favorable to you. And it came to pass. By the time he now said he was defecting to the AC then, as it was then known, I told him, well, at this point, because by my nature, I won't lie to you because I want your money. I will tell you the truth. I said, look, the AC you are going to, you will get the ticket, but you are not going to win the election. Kashim Imam will get the PDP ticket, he will not win the election. I said, Ali Modu Sharif will eventually triumph at the end of the day and he will run all of you out of town.
And he ran them out of town.
At some point, most of them couldn't go home. They were operating from Abuja.
So while he was running them out of time, was he sowing the seed for the emergence of Boko Haram?
Well, if you look at the way he ran that government, and because of the way thugs virtually took over everywhere, because most of those who eventually became Boko Haram, from what some of the party chieftains also said, had some kind of relationship. Because I remember late Jerry Husseini once granted an interview on the national TV accusing, Ali Modu Sharif of breeding, because then in Borno, if you make any statement against Ali Modu Sharif, rest assured that political talks will visit you before nightfall.
He was that tough?
And God help you if they meet you at home. There was a time we were to go and interview, was it Buka Buluri? We were in the house when the talks came in. They beat everybody inside. In fact, they had one of our colleagues, head him up and his legs, were shaking. And one of them now said, why not enjoy doing that? These people are journalists, they are just doing their own job. Let's leave them alone. And that was how they spared us. But they beat the wives of the man and beat everybody up. That was what was obtainable under Ali Modu Sharif.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
There they signed. They signed, agree not to fight, but they didn't leave. But they didn't fight. Of course, and that was Governor Moloney then. He left. I think he left in 1890. Then Carter came. So Carter came and visited Mesile and visited Ibajo. So with the assurance of this British overlord, I used to laugh, the kings, our own king, we said the queen or the king of England was their friend. So they thought he was their equal. He was protecting their interests. So when he came and said, I'll protect all of you, that was what led to the other treaty of 1893. Really, it was a protectorate treaty. I'll protect all of you. You can go now. You can go back. There'll be no war. But, and the terms of the 1886 were largely embodied in the 1883. What were the terms? We no longer fight. The Yorubas will no longer fight. Yoruba kingdom will no longer fight each other. Ibadan will no longer exercise territorial or political control. They will open, of course that was important to the British, they will open the routes to allow for business and nobody will interfere or interrupt any business transaction either within the kingdom or across the kingdom. All of that was there. But in the 1893, they now put it there, the Britain will protect you.
That was the end of Yoruba independence.
Absolutely.
We've been talking history. Let me introduce you to some books that will help you understand the subjects better. This book is entitled Balogun Odenilo in Yoruba History by Ni Aborishede. We recommend this book to you. It will give you a new perspective of history.
And perhaps let you know why sometimes the Fulanis don't forgive the Yorubas.
Okay.
They don't have evidence in their history of being defeated. But they were defeated in 1840. And they were defeated in alliance with the Eastern Yorubas in Jalumi War. They never forget.
And Balogun Odenilo is instrumental
to it. If you get to front of Makpo Hall, you probably see his statue there.
Yeah.
And he proved one thing. His defeat of the Fulanis was not largely on the basis of ammunition. It was on the basis of intelligence and strategy.
Tell me more.
They've almost entered Oshogbo when the Oshogbo people appealed to Ibadan. They've sent one or two other leaders who couldn't succeed, but they sent Balogun Odenilo, who came. When he got there, the Oshogbo people expected immediate warfare. He didn't. He took time to study the place, to study the character of the Fulani fighter. The Fulani fighter could not fight on feet. He has to ride a horse. And he realized that without the horse, the Fulani fighter was nobody. But the Yoruba fighters who carry their sham and their cutlass and dingon and walk. Obviously, they don't have the strength of the horse. So he avoided any situation where they will have a direct confrontation. He knew the camp. He knew the movement of the camp. He knew that the Fulani fighter, because they rely on horses, cannot fight at night. They can only fight during the day. They will sleep at night. Interesting. So having found that, he realized that when they want to eat, they had a particular river where they go to drink. He got that river poisoned. The evening of the night, he was going to move. The Fulani knew that the Ibadans had come, but they were not bothered. But they are on horses, these people of which. So by the time they drank their water, half of them were dead overnight. Their daughter-in-law moved at night, not during the day. So when those who are not dead woke up, the horses in stampede forgot their riders. And the Fulani surviving one cannot fight or feet. It was also dark, they could not fight. So he was able to defeat them. He captured 4 of their generals. So it wasn't prowess, it was intellect, strategy. He used, according to their story, he carries a pigeon. That pigeon speaks to him. He tells him what is happening. Unfortunately, he lost the pigeon in the war because it is the pigeon that carried the poison into that water. Of course, the pigeon himself died of the poison. What happened? So that was what happened. They never liked to hear that story.
That pigeon was like a surveillance tool.
Exactly.
For their-in-law.
You go tell them this, you come back, this is where they are, this is what they are doing, this is what they eat, this is where they are sleeping.
Or their-in-law's drone.
Exactly.
This is the book about Oderino by Ni Aborishade. Another book you should look at is The History of the Yorubas by Samuel Johnson. The History of the Yorubas. You know, so I wonder why Samuel Johnson would be the one to write Yoruba history.
Of course, as at that time, the Yorubas were all yours. As at the time he wrote the history of the Yorubas. You know that Oyo have been in 3 locations. This is their 3rd location. Their earlier location was nearer Bogu than here. They interacted a lot with the Nupes and the Tapas, who gave them the name Yariba. So it was the Oyos that were called Yorubas then. All the others were called their own ethnic name, whether it is or Ifes, or Akokos, or Ijishas, and so on. But he has to write it because the first educated person was Bishop Ajayi Crowther, and that Johnson is his cousin. There are some disputes about the authenticity, accuracy of the story. That somebody as a cousin of Johnson interfered with the manuscript because the story was published well after the death of Johnson. But that's another matter.
Now, I said this book is an epic book.
Absolutely.
Epic. This is the story of Ibadan, written by a professor of history. You know, this is Ibadan. This is Ibadan and the story of Yoruba land. The story of the Kiriji War is stood here. Everything you need to know about the history of Ibadan. Remember, the history of Ibadan is also the history of Yoruba land. Ibadan, Foundation, Growth and Change, 1830 to 1960. Written by Professor Toyin Falola.
A very scholarly person, absolutely scholarly. And it's a very good book. You know, when you say Ibadan, the story of the Yoruba, because there are so many things we talk about. We talk about Efusheto, for example. It's a segment of Ibadan history. Efusheto, though not Ibadan, is Eba, but was a prominent woman in Ibadan who was using her resources, her money to support their war effort. But if you read this book, you're going to find that the story of Efusheto is not like the one you see in plays. Fugitive was never captured. Fugitive was never made to sweep floors and so on. So, but of course, drama can take liberties. Drama can be bigger than life. It can be equal to life. It can be smaller than life. The story of Fugitive that we know is bigger than that story. But if you read the book of Falola, you're going to find that Fugitive was poisoned. It wasn't that somebody captured her and then turned her into a slave to be sweeping floor. It didn't happen. Strong people don't die that way. They die with honor.
Should our young persons be exposed to the details of books like this? Understanding history.
I think we need it. Sometimes for you to even understand your own people, to understand sometimes your own culture, you need it. And it's sad because we want to toy with history. We want to pervert history. So we don't get accurate history. But it's like if you take the Kiriji War, the Ekitis don't call it Kiriji War. They call it Ekiti Parapo War. Because it was the war that bound them together, that they became known not as if a confederation, which was what they have been. They became a federation. That spirit helped them to build a college. They called it Ekiti Parapo College. That spirit beat communalism, some pride, some arrogance. Sometimes intellectual arrogance, you see in Ekitis, some raw courage. It came after that war. So when they look at the war, they see it as their own symbol of sovereignty, symbol of independence. Whereas
the proceeding were very, very unpalatable. I think I reported the whole town, caught fire. And in fairness to him, he sent emissaries to me and pleaded with me in the name of God to stop reporting the plea.
Why did you heed that plea?
When somebody used the name of God to beg you, he has shown you that he's not using his own power, he's not using his own might, that the God you worship, and I left him.
He who fights and run away.
So they went for Hajj that year. So it was while they were in Hajj, I got information that the man said that I can no longer stay in Borno State. And based on that information, I called my editor then, Mr. Femi Adesina. I said I wanted a transfer from the state. And he told me that he's not sure they will take me anywhere. So by the time they came back from Hajj, and I got information that my management were coming, I knew that I was the reason they were coming. And so for me, it didn't take me back. So in fairness to the current vice president, he never wanted me to leave.
He was a commissioner.
He wasn't commissioner yet. He was a banker, but was very close to the government. He wasn't commissioner. He was appointed commissioner in 2007. I was declared personal non-grata in 2005. He told me that, look, because of his relationship with the government, he's close to the father, and that he believes that the father there's nothing the father tells him that he won't listen, that he wants to take me to the father so that they can allow me to stay. And I told him, I said, sir, I want to leave. And I thank God.
You left.
I left.
Wow. When we talk about Borno, we cannot run away from what is going on now. Boko Haram. And they sprang up viciously under Ali Modu Sharif.
Yes.
Did you see the signs before you left?
Yes, I saw the signs because, when the initial founder of the group, late Yusuf, when he was preaching, the ease he was preaching about, you could see and feel them in Ali Modu Sharif's government, and so it was easy for the young man to assemble people. When you say somebody stole and you see the person stealing, it's not as if you are looking for evidence. So he was preaching about vices in government, which we could all see and feel. So it was easy, for him to assemble. But I believe that the government also didn't manage the situation well. How do I mean? When they lost some of their members and they were going to bury, their dead, they were confronted by security operatives. I can't remember the outfit now, but it was Ali Modu Sharif. It was Ali Modu Sharif who inaugurated that team, and those ones now challenged them that they were not putting on helmet, and they said, "Look, what is our business with your helmet?" In the process, there was disagreement. In the usual way, police came out to say that self-defense, they were trying to snatch their weapons, and they killed some of their members. Now, when they killed some of their members, Yusuf wrote formally to the state government, because in Islam, when you kill somebody unjustly, you pay compensation. It is called diya. So he wrote formally to the government to request for compensation. Nobody listened. They gave ultimatum, the ultimatum expired, and before you knew it, what we have today started like a joke. But unfortunately, there was a member of Sharif's cabinet who also had a relationship with the group. Maybe if that man was not summarily executed, maybe we probably would have gotten to the root of all this.
State Affairs with Edmondo Bilo is live.
Yes. The lines are open. You heard the voice of Ismail Omikbidon, the author of the book Persona Non Grata. You can get this book on udarabooks.com. In this book, Ali Modu Sharif declared Ismail Omikbidon of the Sun newspaper Persona Non Grata in Borno State. He chased him out of Borno State. And that story is detailed in this book. Get your copy on udarabooks.com. Africa's security challenges in the 21st century. By the way, this is Ismail Omikbidon's book, Persona Non Grata. The emergence of Boko Haram and Ali Modu Sharif. If you read this book, you would understand. Africa's Security Challenges in the 21st Century by Tunde Adeniro. Another book you should read. You'll find these books on udarabooks.com. Okay, I can take one call before I go. Good morning.
Good morning. I thank you for picking up my call. I am Ezekiel Oluwafemi. Yes, my name is Tari Juma. I really commend you do it. What are we saying this morning? You normally play one audio clip. Nigeria choose to choose the way they choose to follow. Instead of to follow their looters who sponsor the different violences. Please, I want to recite that particular audio clip. It is what I want to use as my comment to answer all to the comprehensive analysis you have been giving since morning. What are we saying this morning? You see, this particular, they are choosing vessel to do electioneering. They are choosing vessel, and after they assume to the office, they become something else. Please, I'm requesting for that audio clip. Recite it before you leave that studio. That's my perspective. Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
I take your orders. Bosun, get that clip ready. Yes. Get the clip ready, the state affairs clip. Here you have Akala's voice. Get it ready. That guy has given us an order. Sam Legend Baba, I can see your message. Ibukun Oluseyi, thank you for joining the program on YouTube. Thompson, thank you for being there. I can see Sunday Olumide here, Edmondo Bilo. Thank you for the prayers. Say we are truly on the same frequency. Thank you. But tomorrow when we are on different frequencies, I hope you will not be angry. Yes. Ms. Baudin Amzad, thank you for being part of the program this morning. I can see your message. Thank you. I received some WhatsApp message. Thank you for the messages. So let's drop it. My name is Edmund Obilo. The next program is Ijoba Tiwa Wisheun Special.